I know this is time number 2 here. I am live and I'm excited. This is our Mind Shift Mondays every Monday at 6 p.m. I got on and got off just now because it was funny because my daughter, who is a pretty popular vegan chef and beverage creator, I also have access to her account, and I thought that I had gone live on her account, and it was hilarious. So I got off not knowing that I was actually on the right one. So welcome to our Mind Shift Mondays. Welcome, David and Marion Lewis. And I have all of you to share because this is National Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Woohoo! Super excited about this month. It is but we want to celebrate. So welcome, Rose. Welcome.
Hey, how are you, Celeste? I can barely hear you. Is it just me?
Okay, how about that? Is that
I can
better?
hear you better now. Yeah, we can definitely hear you better now.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to switch something around. I yeah, I'm in a different place today, and
Mhm.
so I was really excited to be right here. And then you told me you couldn't hear me, so
No, no, no.
okay,
I could hear you at first. As soon as I joined the video, something just got a little wonky. So I can hear
that's
you now.
okay. Okay, is
Whatever,
that better?
yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, great, awesome.
Perfect
So
placement.
without further ado, this is a very interesting topic that we are getting ready to talk about. As we give you the topic, we want you to go ahead and start texting your people, tell them to get on. Mm. So, Growth Coach D and I intentionally don't fully discuss the topics ahead of time. We do just some light, making each other aware of kind of what we'll talk about and discuss the relevance of the topic. But other than that, some things we just like to do raw, and here
Hmm.
we are. So,
Hmm.
in honor of National Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, we are talking about how infidelity affects the man's heart. Okay? Because this is a topic that's really deep. This whole infidelity, when men experience it, it's completely different from when a woman experiences, so society tells us. So, uh, and this is not, we're approaching it from a very healthy standpoint where we
Hmm.
really want to help some people. This is not just going to be about cheating. This is not Jerry Springer. We don't do that. But uh, and I can't wait to delve into this,
Hmm.
dive in all of it with you, Growth Coach D, as a man, because women endure infidelity, and women are expected to work through it, get through it, and your heart be the same. Go on, continue to love and support your man, right? Whereas when a man does it, it is expected that not only is he supposed to end that relationship very quickly, but as soon as he dismisses the relationship, his heart is supposed to also dismiss any feelings pertaining to it. So I want you to, can you please jump in here?
All
And
right.
I mean, is it okay? Do men's hearts just work that way?
I want to say this.
Mhm.
Like most other issues that are pertaining to men, we typically don't have permission to feel
Mm,
and to really dive into the emotional experience. And there are a few experiences that can be more challenging for a man to navigate than infidelity, because men typically don't expect for that to happen to them.
yeah,
It can be very emasculating for a man,
yeah,
especially if other people know about it, and then processing the maraude, the all of the emotions is
yeah,
something that um, men have a hard enough time doing with small
yeah,
stuff, much
yeah,
less something that's like a big Mack truck that's coming and running smack dab into you unexpectedly,
Yeah.
because no one, male or female, expects infidelity. When you make a commitment to your partner, you
Yes.
there's a trust factor, and trust is a very fragile thing. And I think that it goes without saying that trust, I think it's a bigger deal for men
Mm.
than it is for the female kind. Even
What
what you mentioned
what do you mean by
a moment ago. Well,
expound on?
you just mentioned that, okay, if a man cheats,
Mhm.
all right, typically speaking, the female is many times going to strongly consider taking him back, working through the difficulty, and many couples do.
Yeah.
But and there's a trust factor, because to me, in any case, I think the trust factor is that, all right, this mistake was made, and now I have a choice to make.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose to work my way through this, hoping that it's not going to be something that recurs over and over and over and over again. And in some cases, some people just accept it, at least
Yeah.
females. Men, I don't know of any instances where a man just accepted it, where
Right.
he's just like, well, I guess this is just how the way that it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's harder for a man to think of trusting again in that situation and scenario than it is for a female, because, like you said, men are almost expected to end things, and instead of working through them, it's like, oh no, she cheated. Mm,
So what happens to a man's heart? Like what
mm,
happens from your experiences, guys you've talked to? You help a lot of people.
mm-hmm.
You do relationships in your business. And so what happens to the man's heart when he experiences infidelity? When he
Okay,
finds
great
that
question.
his woman, his wife, has stepped out and 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 became physically intimate with another man, what happens to his heart?
Complete and utter devastation. And
Okay.
so, men and women, again, this is devastation. The man doesn't know how to express it. Usually men revert to the familiar emotion of rage, and
Mm.
they're ready to take somebody out of here.
Yeah.
And even though the cognitively it doesn't really make sense, why are you going to kill or do serious bodily harm to that person? That person over there, they didn't necessarily do anything wrong per se.
Yeah.
The person who you're in a committed relationship with chose to step outside and be over here doing XYZ elemental P.
Break.
And so, yeah. And so for men, anger is probably one of the more common emotions initially, and then just complete and utter devastation, and this sense of loss, this overwhelming sense of loss.
Mm.
And most men haven't done a lot of practice in processing these very intense emotions: anger, loss,
Yeah.
just and we don't know what to do. We act like everything is fine. And going back to what you pointed out, rewind from last week. Hey man, you good?
Yeah.
What's he gonna say? He's gonna say, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be all right, you know. And no, we're not. It's okay to not be okay. And this is one of those instances where it's like, you know what? This needs more attention. This isn't
This
surface.
this
This
is
is
not
something that
so
we really got to dive in. Go ahead.
so so two things. What you're saying, first of all, I don't know why it hurts me to hear you say that. Like that's interesting. Um because when people hurt, I'm in the therapy room. I can walk out. I know I did my best, in my personal world, when I hear something like that, it's a little bit different. My heart is there in this session, but I can't carry the weight of everybody's
Mm-hmm.
problem. Now, I remember growing up. So before I was formally a therapist, before I had my license, everybody talked to me when I was really young.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm about 13ish around this time. And there was a couple. He had been cheating on her. They were married. He had been cheating on her with everybody for
Mm-hmm.
a long time, and she didn't know it. After so long, and he had children on the outside by different women, and she kept forgiving him, leaving, going back, devastated because he was her first everything. Well, they were each other's first everything. Long story short, when she had had enough, she finally left him with several children, went and lived with a relative, and then started talking to a guy. Her husband, who was devastated, and came to me. I'm 13 now, but I was a therapist back then, right? And he's devastated. He's almost in tears. He's talking about wanting to kill her. Like, it was crazy because he got a phone call from someone saying, yo, your wife's car is in back of such and such's and it's 4 something in the morning. So now he wants to kill her. He's devastated. He's hurt, and he comes to me. And I look at him and I say, first of all, you don't even know if she's done anything. Second of all, you have so many people and had several children on the outside, only one, which she only knew of one of them at the time. And his words to me were, but you don't understand. That was my stuff. That's different. And I said, in my 13-year-old self, how come? Oh, wait, I wasn't 13. I'm sorry. I was 15 because I remember when I was 14. Okay. I was 15 still.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how come her stuff can't be yours? I mean,
Pot calling the kettle black.
how come your stuff can't be hers,
Mm-hmm.
but her stuff is yours? And what she's done is so much worse if she actually had sex with a guy. We don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
She said she didn't. But in his mind, your car's behind his at 4 a.m. You got some splaining to do. But all of that to say, break that down for me. Like, why was his infidelities, she only knew about 1 or 2,
Mm-hmm.
probably 20.
Unfortunately, that's a common thing when it comes to I can tell you many instances where there was revenge cheating that took place, and the pot calling the kettle black is a saying that's used, and whereas men feel like oftentimes they have a license to go and be a man. That's what a man does. As soon as it happens to them, they just broke, tore up, just snotting and crying and ready to kill somebody. Like, you haven't been out here in these streets running
Oh,
around. And,
he wanted to kill them separately. Oh,
yes,
he
probably.
ready to kill the guy too.
I,
He's like, you say
and
the
that's
word.
that's a very common response. Every man that I've worked with who's dealt with this, violence was the first response. I'm gonna kill him. And it's like, wait, why are you gonna kill him? She made a decision
He's
to
gonna kill.
go.
He's gonna kill both of them.
Yeah.
But now the other part is she had left him by this time
Mm-hmm.
because he wouldn't stop cheating.
Men are territorial. He was viewing her as his, and while she wasn't property, because this is the 21st century,
Right.
For whatever reason, some men just territorial. You could call it what you want to call it. I'm not saying it's right, but he felt as if, especially with their history, that she didn't have the right to be with anybody
Yeah.
else. And while I might think that's a little delusional, um, I do know that it does happen. What's strikingly interesting though is how emotionally distraught men can be, even when they're the ones who inflicted the first wound, and it's just a tit for tat thing. Like, men can't handle it. Men don't know what to do. And whether or not there was some unfaithfulness on his part or not, we typically don't handle infidelity well at all. And we go into a severe depression. And oftentimes those yucky emotions get stuck on the inside of us because we don't have safe space. We can't go and cry on our boy's shoulder, because that's gonna make us feel like even more of a little wuss. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so we kind of mask it. You know, I'm gone. I don't need her no way. And you just broke up and crying and not sleeping at night. Um, it's a huge problem.
Really lose sleep over it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
hmm And I think that's a universal thing. I don't think that that's a gender piece. But the people that I work with, men and women, that's a common thing where you've lost sleep and you just have tremendous anxiety and a hyper vigilance. Where are they right now? You
Yeah.
know, they're probably over there. And it's no way to live life. And
Yeah.
men, especially, because we have that territorial aspect of us, whether it's right or wrong, um, it can drive you crazy.
Mm.
It can drive you crazy if you don't find a better way to work through those emotions. And this is one of those times where I say therapy is necessary. Like, it is a requirement. There's no better way to just be jacked up emotionally indefinitely, and than to hold all of these emotions on the inside of you. Men have to normalize um, getting to safe space, even if you have to pay for that safe
Yeah.
space in the context of therapy or counselor.
Yeah.
Because right now, most times men are just bottling this stuff up, and it's eating them. It's eating them um, alive from the inside out.
So let me ask you. So again, we are
Mhm.
discussing the issue. We really are discussing it not from a gossipy,
Yeah.
standpoint. It really is from a true mental health perspective on the man's heart once he experiences infidelity.
hmm
So you're telling me this thing about men being territorial, about losing sleep. So it sounds to me like it's grief, like
It's definitely
major
grief.
loss.
A
It's major loss.
major loss.
So it's the
And
grief. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna
Mhm.
say it's different from regular grief
Ah,
because the people are still alive, but there's a death. Like, there's an actual death of something. And even those couples who choose to work their way through, because many couples do
yeah.
work their way through, or try to at least, um, it's still the death of what was. and
That's deep.
and and it never goes back to, it's like when sin entered the world. At that point,
Can't go
it
back
was
to.
just it was a different ball game.
Let me ask you.
Yeah,
Let me ask. Can a man ever truly through, get over infidelity?
absolutely, yes. Now, there's a
Okay.
lot of people who disagree with me, but I do have a saying, and I didn't make it up. I heard somebody else say it. Trust is something that it's built in droplets and lost in gallons. And when in order to rebuild that trust, there has to be consistency over time,
Yep.
and with both parties being on the same page,
Yep.
walking through the process. Usually you can't do that. I don't know. I'm trying to think of somebody who walked through it by themselves successfully.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult because remember, like you were saying, when a man is cheated on or a woman is cheated on, using your own thoughts to get through it is so difficult because you are trying to be the defense attorney, the prosecutor, and the judge. You can't be all three.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And mind you, and men are really good, both, but men especially, and the PI detective.
And the PI detect. Oh my God, that's a whole nother role. Like, so yeah, and so the heart of a man that's grieving to this degree, because the truth is that some people really do. I've counseled tons of couples with
Mm-hmm.
this being the issue,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them have done very, very well. They do better when it's the man that's cheated and the woman is.
Why is that?
Hmm.
Why would you say that?
For the same reasons that you're talking about, men being territorial, that it's a major death for them. It's a major loss. For the woman, it's a major loss too. But the woman is expected, her heart is expected to extend a little bit further than the man's. And like this guy told me, he said, we were kind of debating back and forth a few months ago, and he said, nah. When a man cheats, we aren't really emotionally connected to the woman we cheated with. We're just doing, it's just physical, it's just going in. But for the woman, you guys attach
Now,
attach
now,
emotionally. So therefore, that's why it's worse. It's not worse, but I'm just trying to put the water down. so, and I'm being sensitive here with National Men's Mental Health
yeah.
Awareness. National.
I think we got to dive into that. We got to dive into that because that has also been a very intense discussion that I've had on multiple levels with multiple people and sometimes in a group setting. That notion of when a man cheats versus when a woman cheats. Now let's firmly establish, number one, that cheating is wrong. There's
It's wrong.
no place for it. It's never excusable. We're not saying that, okay, there's a time when, okay, it's something that it might be acceptable. It's never acceptable. But the
Never.
realities are it happens,
It does.
right? And it happens to people who are, I'll try to choose my words wisely, but fundamentally good people who find themselves in compromising situations.
Good people doing a bad thing
Yes,
oftentimes.
yes, that's what ends up happening. Now, going to this, I first want to come to that point you were talking about how when a man cheats, it's not emotional. I think that I got to put an asterisk there. Asterisk. Yes, generally speaking, men can just divorce themselves emotionally from something and just engage in a physical act. But I wouldn't say that. I think that men aren't as aware of the emotional attachment and connection. I personally think that men use sex as one of the primary means of having emotional needs met because we don't have the words. This is my personal, because can men do without sex?
We're gonna ask EMT
Can
1970 since
can
he
can
come lives and disrupt things. Well, I'm gonna say I've never been a man, so I don't know.
yeah. If ask 10 men, 10 grown men.
I I
All right,
have I
can men
have,
do without? Go ahead.
and they think that they can.
Exactly. That's my point. And so because of that, I'm
But
saying,
but
go
but
ahead.
I just don't get the that's how you show emotions.
I, I'm saying that because we are not as skilled,
Okay.
we haven't worked out as much as our female counterparts in the gymnasium of communication. Okay, so men are about action. And so when a man needs intimacy, what's he gonna do? Like Men, go ahead.
Okay.
I think men need I think men need just as much
Men,
of the emotional connection, but men seek it out in the physical way.
which makes
That's the acceptable way.
infidelity. I know we're not talking about the women tonight, which
Mm-hmm.
makes a man's infidelity even worse from that standpoint.
May,
Because
maybe
because
maybe.
you got three different women. One of them you claim to have committed to
Mm-hmm.
and in love. So are you telling me that you're trying to show your emotional connection to all three?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Mm.
I'm just saying that in general, I think that we gloss over that. Don't be raising your nose up at me, and acting like, mm-mm. Now, I am saying this. I'm saying that by and large, men can have sex with women who they're not emotionally attached to. I'm just saying that in general, I think there's more to it than we really have
Yeah.
have language wrapped around. But men can and have been known to, have sex with anything that has a skirt on, and sometimes things that, well, we're gonna leave that alone.
Mm.
But when a woman cheats, let's talk
Well,
about that because
no, that's another
yeah,
lie because we're not gonna have enough time. So I
we
got a
not.
question.
But
Though. Can I ask you a question
you
that might?
starting
I
stuff
know.
though. You
I know.
go ahead, go ahead.
So let me ask you. So we stick on the men, but kind of delve a little bit into where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
So if a woman knows all of what you just shared, and
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
If a woman cheats, like she does it and she feels bad about it, should she even tell the man, knowing that and she wants her relationship? She has learned her lesson. She has gotten with the Lord. She has gotten with the Lord. And I would love for some of the people in the chat. I mean, should a woman at
Yeah.
that point, should she break her heart because her heart is hurting?
Mm-hmm.
Should she keep it and go between her and God and maybe one or two of her girlfriends and resolve that? Or should she come to the man and pour her heart out and confess?
I think that is an extremely personal
Okay.
decision. I know how my own personal views are. Um, I believe in a policy of radical honesty. That
Okay.
that's me. I do know of situations where that radical honesty did bring the end of a relationship.
Yep.
And it's tough to say either way what somebody should do, not knowing the individuals or the ins and outs. I think that men typically don't handle infidelity well at all. It makes us lose our righteous minds. Like we don't handle it. We don't handle it well at all. And I gotta circle back because you pointed something out, and I was trying to give a more well-rounded, well-balanced approach. But typically when a woman cheats, it's not about physical, it's not about sex. It's an
Right.
emotional thing. And that part right there is what men can't take. It's
Well,
like men,
well. If I wanted to just be ugly, then
go ahead.
I could say what Steve. If I just wanted to be ugly, I could say what Steve Harvey said. And Steve Harvey said that if you leave a woman out there emotionally neglected,
Mm-hmm.
eventually, sometimes that's what happens. But she almost never just goes out there because it is about an emotional connection that she's
Mm-hmm.
really trying to stick toward her man or her
Mm-hmm.
husband. And so interesting enough, as a therapist of about 26
Mm-hmm.
years, most of the women that have come into my therapy room with their husbands that have cheated never told the husbands. And they
Very, very common, extremely common.
whatever. So let me explain that though. Now I have had some where I felt like they needed to tell, and I have
Mm-hmm.
had most that they didn't need to tell. Let me tell you why. Because I had one that came and she was tore up. The incident had happened several years prior. She was emotionally neglected big time.
Mm-hmm.
She had found out he had not physically cheated, but he had had some inappropriate,
Mm-hmm.
conversations and some stuff. And she was devastated and hurt and very lonely. And she felt ugly.
But wait,
She
can I pause you right there? Because I think that this is a very important distinction. Because when a woman cheats, we go down this whole. When a man cheats, he don't get
no,
that, and I'm saying,
no, no, I'm not
I'm not.
making excuses. I'm not saying that she cheated. I'm trying to bring you to the point why we
I
decide.
know. I'm saying in general, what
Never
happens
a
when
good.
we start talking about a woman cheating? That's what
No,
happens,
no, no.
and that right there, I'm
You got to listen to the whole
I'm
story,
I'm
Dan.
going to listen to it. I just need to point out that if it was a man who cheated, we wouldn't be having all of this discussion. It would be he
No,
cheated, he's a
no,
this, that.
no.
Go ahead. Talk to me.
I was going on what you said about the woman and the emotional stuff. So there's never a good excuse for cheating on no day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Never, ever, ever, ever,
Mm-hmm.
ever a good excuse. I'm talking about the reasons why some people it's important for them to share it and for some people not. So in
Talk to
her
me.
situation, it had been several years since it happened, a number of years since it happened. It was short lived. She stopped. She repented for it. We talked about it at great length, and she had been rocking smooth sailing for almost like 10 years, like really. And she shared it with someone else, and their advice to her is that she needed to go share it with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And then she called me, and I said, huh? No, 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 no. I said, so I asked her questions before we came to a conclusion. Questions
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, you know your husband. This is a major loss. This is grief. This is this. This is this.
Mm-hmm.
How will he handle this? She said, oh, he'll want to end the relationship completely. I said, wait a minute, but you got children. Oh, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
She said he absolutely, absolutely would not be able to move past this. I said, so you want your marriage? Is your marriage in a healthy place? She said, my marriage is in a very healthy place. We have been rolling. We got through whatever. We have been in an amazing place. I love my husband. She was boohoo crying. I love my husband. I don't want to hurt him. So in an instance like that, where the person is not in danger of doing it again, probably ever, and this was many years ago, and this girl has not done anything like that since, no. But some people need to share in order for their heart needs that level of transparency in order to even be back on track. Hers didn't. And I know several other women that I didn't even know had cheated until their husbands cheated. You know,
Mm-hmm.
therapy room, it comes out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're crying, saying, how come he couldn't stop? I cheated, but I stopped because I didn't want to, I didn't want it to be the end of my family. So I think there are some situations now. So you're telling me, so the question again, I'm asking you, we're talking about the condition of a man's heart. And I know we have to wrap up in a minute and kind of give some takeaways, but on what men should do if they have experienced it, because
Mm-hmm.
this is National Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and they experienced this. And this is one of the things that our communities, black, white, pink, blue, or green, that we really don't discuss.
Mm-hmm.
What does a man do after infidelity? How does his heart heal? And so, but before we go there, my question to you is, then should the woman tell the man? I know you said you believe in radical transparency,
Mm-hmm.
but in a situation like I just shared with you, should she tell?
And I preface my remarks with saying that that's a very individual
Yeah,
the decision. I share what I personally believe and how I choose to live my life. Everybody's situation is different. What I've learned working with people in relationships is there's no one size fits all.
right.
Um, and you can't say that, oh, you got to do it this way or else it's not going to work. I know people who do everything from multiple, open marriages.
Yeah.
Yeah, you name it. I know people and have had dialogue and discourse with people who make relationships work that I'm like, really? Y'all make that work? And so I think it's definitely something that you want to have people walk with you through, who may have a little bit of knowledge, a little wisdom, who can see in your blind spot. But I just know, like in Psalm 32, David described it like this. He said, "When I kept silent, my bones wasted away." Like
Mm.
it was eating him up on the inside.
Yeah.
And even while he was, seemingly kind of living free from the exposure, it was killing him. It was killing him on the inside. And I don't want to live my life that way.
Good.
And I have, in in my own life, just kind of embraced the principle of radical honesty.
Yeah.
And so it might get me in trouble, but I think that until you get to the place where you're able to hear some hard and difficult truths, I don't think that you have. I question the depth of the relationship.
Mm.
You
Mm.
you you, you
Very,
know when,
very good.
yeah, you know when somebody's sharing something with you that you really don't want them to know
Yeah.
where that
Yeah.
relationship.
So that goes back to the real definition of intimacy.
Yeah.
Emotional intimacy. Sharing facts plus
Mm-hmm.
equals intimacy. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime you haven't shared the deeper parts of you, you really are not in a trusting relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You're not. The only way to affair proof your relationship is to go into that deep, emotionally intimate space.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires you to to do some radical transparency. That's
Mm-hmm.
one of the ways to affair proof your marriage, because once you experience that level of intimacy with someone, you only want the real thing.
Yeah.
But when you have been hiding under a bushel, when you have not shared a lot because you live in shame, then you
Yeah.
are always in danger, because you live in secrets, and the danger
Mm-hmm.
starts when the secret first begins. So you're walking around, you're in a relationship in danger. You are always
Mm-hmm.
eye wandering, because
Yeah.
you haven't entered into that next place. So I know
Yeah.
some that just joined the live. It's National Men's
Mm-hmm.
Mental Health Awareness Month, but we are doing something. We are dealing with the man's heart after infidelity. we
Mm-hmm.
we already talked about him being in a great place of loss, um, all the things that go along with grieving, shock, anger, depression,
Mm-hmm.
bargaining, until you get to the acceptance level. And some men don't make it to the acceptance level because
Come on.
we don't actually offer the opportunity for him to do anything but say, yeah, I'm good,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or man, it's messed up. You know what I'm saying? They say what they think, but they don't actually get to empty out that emotional cup. So I know this could go on forever. I know we have to end. Anything you
Okay.
want to say before we go to our takeaways?
Um, I think that it's a very um, common struggle, unfortunately, in 2023 with social media, especially. Almost everybody who comes into therapy, counseling, coaching, because they're having some difficulty, a lot of times this is one of the tough battles that
Yeah.
they're trying to find answers and solution to. The social media has us connected to infinite people that we know, that we don't know. And I just want the people who are watching this live, especially men on this men's mental health awareness month, to know that, you know what, your pain matters, and
Mm,
it's not something that you need to conceal. And if you don't get those bad emotions out, then you run the risk of exploding. My best friend in the whole world, he worked for the correctional institution in Detroit, and he has so many stories of men who had emotions bottled up on the inside and just snapped.
Yeah.
And um, as a result of them snapping, good blue collar, white collar, like good people
Yeah.
just snapped. And all of life is now different for themselves, for their entire family. And I don't want anybody to unnecessarily feel like you have to carry that burden alone. It is not something that anyone expects for you to just get
Yeah.
over. And I would just encourage you to know that you're not alone, because there's a lot of people who are dealing with that issue right now. There's a lot. I can't tell you how many men I have worked with who felt like they were the only ones,
Yeah.
who felt like they were the ones
That's
who,
why I'm so embarrassed about it too.
yes,
Yeah.
you know, it's beyond embarrassing to know that, yo, my partner, the person who I committed my life to, is out here. For a minute, it's even more embarrassing. It's even more just humiliating. And I don't want to use the word emasculating, but yeah, because what makes you feel like a man? Oh, that's mine. That's mine right there. That's mine. And now it's just like, yo, you out here running around just passing out freebies.
Mm.
And um, yeah, all my brothers, we see you, we hear you. Your pain, it needs to be given a voice in safe space,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, in order to bring about that heart healing. And so there was one other question. I don't know if I get to ask you now. Do I get to ask you? There was a question
Okay.
I was going to ask you.
Go ahead.
All right. So the question I'm going to ask is, who cheats more? Because we're talking about men and men dealing with infidelity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to just kind of ask you, based on what you've seen and heard and experienced, and or statistics that you're aware of. We know that men are experiencing it. We know that they're experiencing it more, but is it imbalanced? Is it about 50-50? Is it about the same? What are you seeing? What do you know?
So it's because I don't trust any of the statistics out there online,
Mm-hmm.
only because everything's self-reported.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's self-reported. Now I can tell you what I've seen in the therapy room in my 26 years of being a therapist, 25, almost 26 years of
Mm-hmm.
being a therapist. I will say this. I think that more men cheat um, repeatedly. Like usually if I've had women to cheat, I have had a couple women that could beat the man at his game, so she thought. So a few of them thought, but they generally have some really deep rooted issues like uh, sexual molestation that they never really worked through, where they
Mm-hmm.
were made to feel worthless. And so they took that being anytime a woman, a girl experiences sexual molestation, it's a violation. Something is taken from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they gain a sense of control, I can control it, so I give it out to many people or whomever, because now at least I'm in control. It's a subconscious thing. And so, but I will say that in therapy, more men hands down have cheated, and usually it's repeatedly. It's usually not like ooh, it was one person. Not usually. And then with the women, if they've cheated, it's usually, like you said, an emotional thing, and that has happened. And most of them experience major emotional neglect from their husbands. And not that there's any excuse, but that's just kind of give you. So I don't believe it's 50-50. Now, interesting enough, if you look online how many marriages or relationships experience infidelity,
Mm-hmm.
it give you somewhere around that 20 to 25% mark.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not true. It's a lot more than
It
that.
absolutely is.
It
And if I could just jump in
Yeah.
really fast, and say, even back to my policy of radical honesty, like I've borrowed that principle from Willard Harley, who wrote a book called His Needs, Her Needs: How to Affair Proof Your
Yes, I
Marriage.
love that book.
Yeah, and so he's got another one, Surviving an Affair. He's got another one, Love Busters. And in all of these resources, he talks about, or at least two out of three, the principle of radical honesty. That's what he believes. I've actually interacted in person, not in person, but I've interacted with Dr. Harley. And I think that he is onto something just based on how he does his thing. No one size fits all. But I wanted to say, what was the point I was trying to make? I brought that up because we know that that it's usually a reflection of a need that's being unmet. And so while there's no excuse, we can
What
trace and see the
do
reason why.
you mean like that? You mean a need being unmet within the relationship?
Yes, oftentimes.
Can I disagree?
You can disagree. I'm just trying to tell you what Dr. Harley said.
Okay.
He's pointing out how we all who are in committed romantic relationships
Mhm.
need to be aware of the emotional love
Yeah,
tank balance of our partners,
I get that.
because everybody has the love language. He calls them the emotional needs. So his emotional needs inventory, it's like, okay, if you know that this is an important emotional need for your partner, it's your job to meet that need. They can't go to another
It
store.
is. That's really
And
bank. That's whole love bank thing.
yeah.
But most of the time, men that I have come in contact with in the therapy room and outside
Mm-hmm.
of the therapy
Mm-hmm.
room, that it hasn't. Most of the time, it's not because something was missing in the relationship,
I
but
disagree.
but something missing inside of them. So let me tell you.
Yes, I agree with that. But I
Remember,
think that, go ahead.
remember earlier when I was talking about the guy,
Mm-hmm.
he said my wife was near perfect. Then why were you cheating on her? And so to this day, let's fast forward. That
Mm-hmm.
happened 30 years ago. Okay? Do you know what he said recently? He wishes more than anything he could get her back. He said
Obviously.
he said he never cheated because there was something missing in the relationship. He said there was nothing missing. He said his needs that he has right now that he's been looking for in other women that he can't.
Mm-hmm.
He said she possessed every single one of them.
That's real.
That's real.
That
Now, the women, on the other hand, have said that there was something missing emotionally. There was something missing. I'm sorry, pause for a second. But there was something missing for them emotionally. And that is what, now that's not an excuse.
yeah, no. We're not saying it is
You
an
don't go
excuse.
cheat because there's something missing. Fix what's
And,
missing.
and
But
I need us to normalize making sure that we're not giving.
nobody
I've
gets it.
seen so many times, Celeste. I've seen so many times when a female steps out, we got all of these. Well, he was emotionally unavailable, and this and that. And then when a man cheats, it's just like he's just a dirty dog.
No,
And I'm
no.
saying,
Well, if he's a dirty dog, they say usually because you usually find out about more than one woman. It's not like I
I
fell
I
in
can
love.
share tons of stories with females who in the same predicament.
Well, I can only speak from my experience. Even
Yes.
before I was a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
even in the therapy room, it's not been the case. The man, and the thing is that there are some situations. I know some men that haven't cheated whose women were holding out in the bedroom, and I'm like, girl, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so see, here I'm over here talking to the woman trying to get her together. You can't do that. There's still never an
Yeah,
excuse for cheating. But a lot of times when the man has cheated, he's not just cheated with one woman.
that's true.
Right.
And
And then another lie we have to talk about is how the cheating is done.
mm-hmm.
Cheating is never good. But this
Yeah,
whole thing with men not wanting to wear anything to protect themselves and their wife, that's on
yeah.
a whole nother level, but we'll have to talk about that. But all of that to say, I know we have to wrap this up,
Mm-hmm.
but I think now next week's topic is an extension of this, except it's not National Men's Mental Health, so we won't give it away. But you guys, please make sure you join us next week. We don't do fluff here. This is
Mm-hmm.
Mind Shift Monday. We deal with real issues from real standpoints and emotional, therapeutic. We deal with real stuff to really help you with these issues. So I know, Danny, you and I can disagree a little
Oh
bit
yeah.
on this whole infidelity thing with the men and the women. And we'll have next week, which is yeah, but go ahead.
I just wanted to point out in chapter 1, if anyone's ever come in contact with a researcher in the space of romantic relationships, you've come across the name of Dr. John Gottman. All right. And so while I agree with you that statistics can be manipulated based on whatever you're trying to prove, Dr. John Gottman, in the latter part of chapter 1 of his Seven Principles book, he points out, based on the research of some lady, I can't think of her name, from Berkeley, that with the rise of women entering the workforce, that their infidelity has exceeded that of their male counterparts.
I don't believe that.
You might not, but Dr.
So
John,
the other thing
come
that
on.
might make that true is if the definition of infidelity has changed. I don't
True.
believe it sexually.
Yeah.
Because if we start to broaden the definition of infidelity, and we start to take into account emotional and not physical, and sometimes for a woman, people do count that as infidelity. They do.
Yeah.
They count emotional connection like an emotional affair. There is a such thing. So I would love to know the distinction there, if they're talking about emotional affairs, physical or both.
Well, the main point, the only reason I brought that up was to normalize for any men who are dealing with it. Like, we just want you to know you're not alone. You know, this is Mind Shift Monday, and we're all about recognizing the power of our minds to radically shift all aspects of our lives. Not shifting like Celeste Cameron just did, but like you can shift
Like
your
that.
whole life. And even while we walk through difficulty and struggle and grief and loss, if we choose not to walk alone, we can usually process those emotions better instead of having them pent up on the inside, and them having those emotions result in us compromising our own safety. Because I know in worst case scenario, men have taken their own lives, just distraught, lost. And then men have taken other people's lives. And all of that is a reflection of these compounded emotions that are upon us that we don't have enough safe spaces to be able to verbalize. And so it's a common struggle. You're not alone. It's not just you. And I encourage you to find yourself on create the safe space, find the safe space, invest in that safe space so that you can get your mind into a better place, and you can begin to shift these key aspects of your life, because the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
Even the difficulties, even the unpleasantries, like all things are working together. And everyone who I have talked to and worked with have had experiences where they're looking back and they're saying, you know what, God used that mess, and now look at what he's done. Now look at who he's allowed me to bless, me to help, me to encourage, me to pull out of similar situations. And so we just want to encourage you, because that's what we're all about here on Mind Shift Monday. Celeste, did you have any takeaways for the men who might deal with this?
I want to say that, can we come on? I know we already have our topic for next week, but maybe the week after we can talk about some of the physical implications of infidelity. Let's talk about those. Yeah, let's talk about what happens, where that goes in your body, how certain health issues that show up are related to that betrayal trauma. So we will talk about that. So stay tuned. We're here every Monday at 6 p.m. And so, and I know this one we went over a little bit, but these are one of my takeaways, Danny, is that you started along these lines, but I just need men to know that your hurt deserves to be heard. Even if that means going with go.
Oh, Celeste, we can't hear you. At least I can't hear you. Whatever happened, I couldn't hear what it was. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a sign of weakness. I need you to, for your own physical health sake, it's not a sign of weakness. This thing with betrayal trauma will change your entire heart, emotionally, physically. So reach out, whether you need to call somebody, you need to talk about it. And don't think you need to talk about it once or twice and you're good. No, you need to get to the bottom of it. So that's takeaway that I would give. And I know we're going to talk more about it, and join us, because in 2 weeks, I would love for us to really break down how the emotional effects of
Yeah.
infidelity for men and women on that life. We're going to break down the
Yeah.
origins, all that good stuff. So,
Yeah. Well, one final thing I wanted to add, Celeste, is, especially to our men as we're closing out Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, you deserve better than that.
yeah,
And even if, no matter who you are, no matter what your gender, you deserve better than that. And when you understand what you're worth, you
yeah,
can only then and only then really live from a place of worthiness,
yeah.
interact with people from a place of sufficiency.
Mm,
And that is so critical, because if you don't operate from that place of sufficiency, you're going to end up in an entirely different vortex of dysfunction. So I just want to encourage you, hey, you are worth more than that.
yeah,
And you don't have to settle
yeah,
for
yeah.
somebody's foolishness.
That's right.
So I just wanted to leave that out there.
Same time, as a therapist, I'm going to tell you, the couples that became more transparent throughout this whole infidelity thing, they actually did better than they did before the infidelity happened, because now they've
Yes,
a different level of intimacy. But those
exactly.
playing with
Yeah.
it, and they want gaslight and just want the person that they cheated on to feel like they're so wrong, and they, when you can't take responsibility, just leave the person alone. Go on, save
Hmm.
them some time. But
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us on Mind Shift Monday. And again, go back and watch the replay. Share this with people, with men or women that need to hear it. And make sure you tell everyone. Put your reminders, your notifications on to join us next Monday at 6 p.m. Where next week is just as deep as this week. And 2 weeks from today, we're going to be dealing with the emotional side of this whole betrayal thing, because 90 to 95% of all illness has an emotional root cause.
Mm.
So let's not ignore, let's deal with it. So we will do that also. All right, guys, give yourselves some love and some hugs, and we're doing the same to all of you. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, Growth Coach D.
Thank you.